Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. The US President Joe Biden says that the Palestinian Authority should ultimately govern Gaza Strip and the West Bank. India sends a second batch of aid to Palestine. Indian and Australian defence and foreign ministers to meet for 2+2 ministerial dialogue in New Delhi on Monday. And Travis Head leads Australia to a likely 6th World Cup title. India seems unable to defend a low score at Ahmedabad. The 54th edition of the International Film Festival of India to begin in Goa from Monday. After the US President Joe Biden rejected calls for a ceasefire in Gaza, the EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell reiterated the implementation of the UN Security Council's call for urgent and extended humanitarian pauses in the fighting in Gaza. Here's a report.
It's day 44. The fighting between Israeli Defense Forces and Hamas continues to deepen. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden has rejected the calls for a ceasefire in Gaza. In an opinion piece for the Washington Post, President Biden said, to Hamas members, every ceasefire is time they exploit to rebuild their stockpile of rockets, reposition fighters, and restart killing by attacking innocents again. Biden further said that the conflict must end forever and something strong must be built in Gaza and throughout the Middle East so that history doesn't repeat itself. Thousands of Israelis marched on a Jerusalem highway to demand the release of hostages held by Hamas. Families are anxious for their loved ones.
Today is my husband's birthday. He is 63. And his mother, Yafa Adar, is kidnapped. She is 85 years old, and we are not with her, and we are marching. We are marching to Jerusalem.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reiterated Israel's commitment to free the hostages held by Hamas.
We want all of them back. Whether we do it in one stage or two, we will do it in a way that will return entire families. That is as clear as the sun. Israel abides by the laws of war. That's how our army works, the most moral army in the world. Humanitarian aid is also vital to maintain international support.
Qatar's Prime Minister says logistical issues are mainly blocking a deal for the release of hostages held by Hamas. Countries are pushing for humanitarian aid in Gaza. Meanwhile, a Saudi Arabian aircraft carrying relief material for Gaza has left for Egypt. The United Nations has called for a humanitarian pause in Gaza. The Israel-Hamas conflict has pushed West Asia into a major crisis. These children in southern Gaza Strip are hoping for a better tomorrow. Abhishek Bose for DD India.
India has sent the second consignment of aid for Palestinians on Sunday. The Indian Air Force C-17 aircraft carrying 32 tons of aid arrived in Egypt. The relief material has been handed over to the Egyptian Red Crescent for further transmission to Palestine. India says that it continues to deliver humanitarian assistance to the people of Palestine. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu refuted reports of imminent hostage agreement with Hamas. In a lengthy press conference, Netanyahu said that there was no deal yet to secure the release of some 240 hostages held by Hamas as of now. And he dismissed a lot of incorrect reports, that's what he calls them, in recent days about imminent agreements to free at least some of the hostages. He said that if a deal emerges, then the Israeli public will be updated. Earlier, in fact, the Washington Post had reported on Saturday that Israel, the United States and Hamas were close to an agreement that would free dozens of women and children held hostage in Gaza in exchange for a 5-day pause in the hostilities. Netanyahu also defended his military actions in Gaza since October 7, that attack by Hamas. And during a briefing on Saturday, in defense headquarters in Tel Aviv, Netanyahu said that Israel abides by the laws of war.
Israel abides by the laws of the war. That's how our army works, the most moral army in the world. Humanitarian aid is also vital to maintain international support. Without humanitarian aid, even our best friends will find it difficult to support us over time. And it will be very difficult for us to continue the war until the end. We also said that we won't give fuel to Hamas, and this is right. These 2 trucks were requested for the operation of sewage and water pumps in south of the Gaza Strip.
Meanwhile, a spokesperson for Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthi military has said on Sunday that the group will target all ships owned and operated by Israeli companies for carrying the Israeli flag. The spokesperson also called for countries to withdraw their citizens working on crews of these ships. DD India correspondent Mia Alberti reports from Beirut.
We're seeing this as the part of this effort by the so-called axis of resistance to deter Israel to continue its operations in Gaza. And this is something that we had heard Iran and Hezbollah saying that they would be operating on all fronts, and that includes from here in Lebanon, from Syria, from Yemen and from Iraq, where we have seen some US bases being attacked. And from Yemen, we had seen a couple of weeks ago some drones trying to cross the Red Sea being intercepted by US Navy ships. But now this very concrete warning from the Yemenis that they will continue to attack, as you mentioned, Israeli companies and ships that are in that Red Sea. This could see an escalation as well, because we are seeing more missiles coming from Hezbollah. We're seeing now more missiles coming from Yemen as well. We're seeing a shift here as we continue to see the deterioration, the worsening of the conditions of people in Gaza. We are starting to see this increase in attacks from the axis of the resistance that they had warned Israel about if they continue their operations in Gaza. And certainly here in southern Lebanon, we are seeing that that increase in cross-border exchange as well.
Well, Israel has also claimed that Yemen's Houthi rebels seized a British-owned and Japanese-operated cargo ship in the southern Red Sea on Sunday. Israel described the incident as an Iranian act of terrorism with consequences for international maritime security. However, there was no immediate comment from the Houthis. Israel says that there are 25 crew members of various nationalities, including Ukrainian, Bulgarian, Filipino and Mexican. No Israelis are on board. The Houthis have been launching long-range missiles and drone attacks on Israel since the Israel-Hamas conflict began on October 7. The Indian naval ship INS Sharda is on a visit to Port Antstirana in Madagascar. This is from November 17th to 23rd as part of the ongoing operational deployment. The ship's visit is aimed at strengthening bridges of friendship and the Indian Navy's sustained efforts towards ensuring maritime security in the region under the Prime Minister of India's Sagar Security for All, Security and Growth for All in the region. Rescue operations continued for the 8th day to save the 41 trapped workers in the Silkyara tunnel in Uttarkashi in northern Indian state of Uttarakhand. The government is keeping constant communication and making every effort to keep the morale of the laborers who are trapped inside the tunnel. Let's take a look at this report.
In Uttarakhand, rescue operations are underway on a war footing to save 41 trapped workers in Uttarkashi's Silkyara tunnel. The relief and rescue operations are being continuously monitored by the Prime Minister's office. 5 evacuation schemes are being worked on for the workers. Currently, one of the schemes is being executed with great urgency while plans are being made to quickly execute the other 4 schemes.
हमारी इस समय 2 टीमें हैं. हमारे पास कटिंग इक्विपमेंट्स हैं. इन केस ऑक्सी कटिंग करने की ज़रूरत पड़ती है वो हमारे पास अवेलेबल है. इन केस कोई मेटेलिक ऑब्जेक्ट आता है वो हमारे पास था. बट फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटी ये है कि जितना जल्दी विक्टिम हमें नज़र आए अक्रॉस द डेब्री तो फिर हमारा काम वहाँ से शुरू होगा.
India's Road Transport and Highways Minister Nitin Gadkari and Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami visited the site of the recent incident and took stock of the relief and rescue work along with Chief Secretary S.S. Sandhu.
मैं इतना ही बता सकता हूँ कि ये जो ऑगर मशीन है ये अगर ठीक से चल गई तो हम 2-2.5 दिन में वहाँ तक पहुँच सकते हैं और वो भी प्रयास सबसे नज़दीक होने वाला है. पर इसके अलावा अलग अलग प्रयास चाहे कितने भी दिन के हो अगर उसके लिए भी हमने वर्टिकल भी अनेक प्रकार से जगह देकर वहाँ भी अंदर जाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं.
As rescue operations continue for 8 days, Secretary in India's Ministry of Road, Transport and Highways, Anurag Jain, announced on Sunday the decision to take up a 5-option action plan. The decision to work on all fronts has been taken to save the precious lives of the labourers trapped in the tunnel at Silkyara.
और रात के 2 बजे तक बात करने के बाद 5 अलग-अलग एजेंसीज को वहां अपनी एक्सपर्ट एडवाइस के लिए भेजा गया. उसके बाद कल वहां पे एक हाई लेवल मीटिंग हुई. माननीय प्रधानमंत्री कार्यालय से भी लगातार इस चीज की मॉनिटरिंग की जा रही है. तो वहां से एक जो पुराने पूर्व रिटायर्ड सचिव हैं उनको वहां भेजा गया कोऑर्डिनेशन के लिए. उन्होंने भी एक मीटिंग ली सभी इन ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के. तो कल वहां पे जो निर्णय हुआ कि 5 अलग अलग एजेंसीज अलग अलग जो ऑप्शंस तलाशे गए थे उस पे एक साथ काम शुरू करें.
Currently, the administration is in contact with all the workers trapped in the tunnel and has confirmed their safety. Food, medicine and adequate oxygen are being supplied to them through pipes. It should be noted that on the 12th of November, due to a landslide inside the tunnel, 41 workers were trapped while various agencies from across the country are being deployed for their rescue. Bureau Report, DD India.
The 54th edition of the International Film Festival of India, home to the best of world and Indian cinema, kickstarts in the western Indian state of Goa on Monday. More than 270 films are going to be showcased during the 8-day-long annual festival at 4 venues. DD India correspondent Shama Mishra reports.
The much-awaited film festival, the International Film Festival of India, the 54th edition, will begin. And we have Prathil Kumar, the director of the festival, with us. Sir, many congratulations. We all have been looking forward to it. What's unique this year? I mean, how many movies are we going to watch and where all we've got the registrations from?
So uniqueness is in scaling up what has been entrusted upon us is that the first thing which we came to know when we were embarking upon the journey of organizing this 54th edition of IFFI, that back in 1952 when the first edition was organized, it was Mr. Satyajit Ray who had commented upon it that if the quality of films which were showcased in the festival, they were to be seen, then probably the first IFFI which was held in 1952 was the best IFFI by far across the world for many, many years. So we're just continuing that legacy which was left to us, but we are trying to do our best so that the people who come here and participate in the festival, they get to see more and more films, and apart from that, the quality of films should be the best from around the world. And we have been really successful this year.
Lastly, sir, when we are speaking about the cinema reaching the people and India positioning itself as the content hub of the world, what have you seen in that area, the progress that has happened since the time we've coined this term that we want to project ourselves as the content hub of the world?
So, in fact, there are many facets to it that India is actually reaching that stage. You can all see that India has got 2 Oscars, which was a rarity, and getting 2 Oscars means then the content which is being developed is being appreciated not just nationally but internationally. Everybody is appreciating the content. So that's one part of it, and we are promoting the creative minds here because we recognize. So it is ultimately the people who create this content, and it was the vision of Honorable Minister of Information and Broadcasting, Shri Anurag Singh Thakur ji, that such a initiative was started 2 years back, and this is the third edition of 75 Creative Minds of Tomorrow.
So that was the festival director talking all about that will be there, that will be presented and would be up for grabs for the cinema lovers, for the movie lovers and everything entertainment. With camera person Sanjeev, this is Shama Mishra for DD India, Goa.
Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Donald Trump says that he is going to cancel the Pacific trade deal if he's voted to office. Russian drones hit infrastructure facilities in Ukraine. Indian cuisine is the rage at the India International Trade Fair.
Welcome to Jaipur.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. The former US President Donald Trump said that if he wins the 2024 election and returns to the White House, he will cancel the Pacific trade deal that's being pushed by the current president, Joe Biden. Trump, the frontrunner for the Republican presidential nomination, said that he's against the regional trade deal being pursued by the Biden administration with 13 other countries. Trump argued that the trade deal would hollow out American manufacturing and lead to job losses. Well, Russia launched several waves of drone attacks on Kiev early on Sunday for the second night in a row, stepping up its assaults on the Ukrainian capital after several weeks of pause. Ukraine's Air Force said that its air defense systems had destroyed 15 of the 20 Russian-launched Shahed kamikaze drones over Kiev, Poltava and Cherkasy regions. The head of Kiev's military administration said that there had been no initial reports of critical damage or casualties. He also said that close to 10 of the drones were downed over Kiev and its outskirts. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian army has said that it has pushed Russian forces back 3 to 8 kilometers from the banks of the Dnipro River, the first measurable advance by Kiev's forces months into what's otherwise a disappointing counteroffensive. Earlier, the Russian drones hit infrastructure facilities in Ukraine in an overnight assault that caused power outages in more than 400 towns and villages in the south and southeast, as well as the north of the country. This is according to the Ukrainian military. President Volodymyr Zelensky congratulated the Air Force for shooting down 29 of the 38 Iranian-made Shahed drones in several Ukrainian regions on Saturday.
Over the past night, almost 30 Shahed drones were destroyed in our sky. I thank all soldiers of mobile fire groups, aviation, of our Air Force and anti-aircraft missile forces. Your accuracy, guys, literally means life for Ukraine. The closer we are to the winter, the more Russians will try to make the strikes more powerful.
The President Volodymyr Zelensky has sanctioned 37 Russian groups and 108 people, including a former prime minister and a former education minister, and said that he aimed to fight wartime abductions of children from Ukraine and other Russian terror. The decrees showed a range of 10-year penalties against individuals and 5-year penalties against non-profit groups. The sanctioned Russian groups included several whose names or websites indicate their close work with children. In his nightly video address on Saturday, Zelensky said that the list included those involved in the abduction and deportation of Ukrainian children from the occupied territory, and each of them must be held responsible for what they have done.
Several decisions of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine regarding the sanctions toward almost 40 Russian legal entities and more than 100 individuals have been put into effect, including those involved in the abduction and deportation of Ukrainian children from the occupied territory, as well as individuals who in various ways help Russian terror against Ukraine. We are increasing the pressure of our state on them, and each of them must be held responsible for what they have done. And we will not leave any connection of these people with the Ukraine.
Жодного зв'язку цих людей з Україною ми не залишимо.
The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has given her support to the political situation, or I beg your pardon, the political solution in the Israel-Hamas conflict. Ursula called for two-state solution as she handed over a consignment of humanitarian aid for Palestinians from Gaza. The aid was delivered through the Egyptian Red Crescent on Saturday. The EU had quadrupled humanitarian aid to Gaza to $109 million and had organized 15 flights bringing aid for Gazans to the nearby Egyptian city of Arish.
Even as we deal with the urgency of today, we must also think about what the day after could look like and how Israelis and Palestinians can regain hope, have a perspective. And for this, they need a political solution. And this horizon is a two-state solution. It requires the agreement between Israelis and Palestinians. But the European Union is ready to support this process once the time comes, in very close cooperation with our friends and partners. Thank you so much.
Indian cuisine is one of the most diverse cuisines, characterized by its sophisticated and subtle use of many spices, vegetables, different kinds of grains, including millets, all grown across India. The state food stalls serving regional delicacies are a major attraction to visitors at the India International Trade Fair. Here's Kriti Vadera's report.
India is called the land of flavors. Famous dishes of states in India have a unique style, and the type of attraction in one state might not be the same in another. The same goes for dishes too. Punjab's bhatura will be different in taste from Rajasthan's kachori.
I've been here for the first time only, and I liked the Maharashtrian cuisine. I tried vada pav, and overall all the states and all the foods I really love. Being here, the vibe is really good.
I tried Amritsari kulchas. Then second, I went to Jai Maharashtra, and I tried vada pav and misal pav.
Indian dishes strike a delicate balance between sweet and spice, therefore tempting many palates and becoming more popular. Whether you prefer vegetarian, meat-based meals, your taste runs to mild fare, or you crave dishes with some heat, there is always an Indian dish to please your taste buds. State food stalls at India International Trade Fair are serving authentic regional delicacies.
We tried Sada Punjab food court, the makke di roti, sarson da saag, chole bhature. It was tasty, authentic, delicious.
I've always been a fan of great Indian cuisine, and this time I'm really fortunate to have all of them at one place. So I recently tried galoti kebabs from the Abad stall, and they were really lovely and I enjoyed it.
Because of its diversity, most Indians appreciate a wide array of flavors and textures and are traditionally discerning consumers who eat seasonally, locally, and to a large extent sustainably.
From high peaks in north to bountiful oceans in south, Food is what unites the diversity of India. And here in India International Trade Fair this time, several delicacies from throughout the nation are served in these food stalls from different states, which is liked by the visitors who are visiting this time. With camera person Naveen Kumar, I'm Kriti Vadhera reporting from New Delhi for DD India.
Well, Australia have beaten India and have lifted a record 6th World Cup. India had posted only 240 for Australia in 50 overs. The Indian innings was led by a laboured 66 by KL Rahul, who took the over 100 balls to reach there, followed by Virat Kohli, who had 54 in quick time, as well as Rohit Sharma, who contributed 47 in really quick time. But Mitchell Starc was the most successful bowler for Australia, taking 3 wickets. Pat Cummins and Josh Hazlewood claimed 2 wickets each. The Australian bowlers, particularly Starc and Cummins, had applied consistent pressure on the Indian middle order, which struggled to put on a substantial score. The run out of Kuldeep Yadav and the final ball added to Australia's control throughout the tournament. India had been on a dream run for the Rohit Sharma-led men in blue, and they were invincible, winning 10 of the first 10 matches, but unfortunately losing in the final. In the final, we see that Travis Head has hit a marvellous 130, and Marnus Labuschagne had also hit a 58, and they had led the Australian fight back, which put the runs on the board with about 8 overs to spare. Tapas Bhattacharya is joining us with most on the story, and as is Abhishek, who's joining us from Uttar Pradesh. Tapas is at the stadium. Well, a bit unfortunate, Tapas, but you know, this looks like a reversal of the match again that we had in Chennai. You know, India were on the mat at one stage there, 3 wickets down for 2 runs. But then India were able to bat through and chase that run down. The same thing happened here. Australia were 3 wickets down and we thought we were in the match. But then a solid partnership and the match was taken away from us. Fill us in with the details.
Yes, absolutely. Mark, you have actually summed it up quite well. But, you know, you have to give credit. Australia were the best team on the day and they deserve to win. And the nemesis for India in WTC final, Travis Head again proved his worth this time also. Travis Head scored 137 runs last in the World T20 World Test Championship final also. He scored 140 odd run in the first innings, and this time also he scored 137 runs. So Travis Head is fast becoming a thorn in India's scheme of things. Yes. The final, a lot of people thought that the script is being written in such a manner that, you know, India will be able to avenge the defeat 20 years earlier, but it was not to be, and right. Somehow the way Travis Head has played with Labuschagne after the loss of the 3 wickets, it kind of showed a lot. I mean, in fact, it put across a lot of points for India to ponder upon. First, the way India put the field position. Yes. People who actually know this ground, they were talking about the fact that it was imperative to stop the 1s and the 2s. And Indian team management somehow didn't do that enough. The run rate required was never over 4.5, and the Travis Head and Labuschagne were able to rotate the strike. It was imperative at that time to throttle the singles and the doubles, but they couldn't manage to do that.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. The second point, one thought that maybe India went a little too aggressive at the start of the innings when they were batting. They were shot by at least 30 runs. Somehow, if they would have scored 270 odd runs, the game might have been different. But again, as one says that, you know, ifs and buts doesn't count. Sure, Australia are a champion for the 6th time, and they thoroughly deserve this. But for India,
right, let's get in some words from Abhishek, who's also been standing by.
They have reached the final.
Yeah, Tapas, let's get Abhishek's view on the subject as well. Abhishek, so India started off really well, and we saw Rohit Sharma in cracking form. But it took a stupendous catch. You know, if we recall the 1983 final, Vivian Richards also was batting in great form, and then we took a stupendous catch to get rid of him, and that changed the fate of that match. But of course, India was batting first in this case. I mean, how would you look at the importance of losing Rohit Sharma right at the start?
Right, absolutely, Mark. I mean, many would say, in the hindsight, we can say that Rohit Sharma shouldn't have played that shot, but that's how Rohit Sharma has played in the entire tournament. I mean, if you go back to the 2022 World Cup, when India lost to England, I remember in the semi-finals, many raised questions on the opening partnership, the strike rate. I remember KL Rahul and Rohit Sharma were the openers back then. Many raised questions on the strike rate, and then Rohit Sharma said at the press conference also, and we know from our sources also, that that day Rohit decided that I'm going to play my shots right from the word go, and I'm going to lead by example. I'm going to set the tone in the beginning. So that's how Rohit Sharma has played in the entire tournament. Unlucky 47. In the last game also he got out on 47. But yes, a big heartbreak for 1.3 billion people, Mark. I mean, what a great campaign by Australia. I remember in 1999 also, Australia had lost the first two games of the tournament, and same thing happened here also. They lost the first two games, and if Maxwell had not played that knock against Afghanistan, they would not have even qualified. I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe Afghanistan would have qualified, things would have been different. Right. And they played against South Africa in the semi-finals also. I mean, they entered the finals, but again, things could have gone either ways. And if you see India also, Australia, they gave run for the money in the first game itself. India were 3 down for almost nothing, for almost 10 runs. Yes, Australia know how to play big tournaments. They know how to win big matches, and they've shown it again, winning their 6th tournament, winning in 1987 for the first time, and then 1999, 2003, and 2007, and then 2015, and then now. Yes. And yes, what an innings by Travis Head. Ricky Ponting had scored 100, Damon Martin had scored 100, and Travis Head's name will be taken along with Adam Gilchrist and Ricky Ponting for sure. What a superb innings. But yes, sure. Australia completely outplayed India today in the finals.
Absolutely. Tapas, and if you look at Travis Head, I mean, he was injured at the start. He wasn't even in the team, and had to come in midway through, and then has really proved his worth, because the other batsmen who have a better reputation than him were not actually playing too well in the tournament, and Australia was struggling.
Absolutely, and that probably is, you can sum it up same with Mohammad Shami and same with Travis Head. Both Mohammad Shami was actually not picked up for the playing 11 for the first 4 matches, and then he was given a chance because Hardik Pandya got injured. But again, one have to understand that today Mohammad Shami was also not that effective. He was seaming the ball, but he was not pitching it up the way he should have. And the length and the line was actually off the mark. So the first couple of overs, one thought that the initial jitters got to the Indian bowlers a bit. They were under pressure to deliver right from the beginning. Although Bumrah got the 2 wickets and Shami also got 1. But one thought that as the ball was nipping up around a bit, one thought that probably both the bowlers should have been, I mean, especially Mohammad Shami should have been more consistent with his line and length, and he could have got a couple of more wickets. And obviously our fielding was not that great. Dropping one, in fact, missing one chance, missing half chances. Again, you have to see, you have to close the gaps. I always believe if it's a low-scoring matches, one has to make sure that one doesn't give the easy singles and the twos. That is something that the Indian team failed to do, and they gave easy singles. They should have got the fielders in the inner circle close to put pressure on the batsman. Travis Head was not looking good against Bumrah. He was finding it very difficult, but with the spinner coming in, and in the initial over, Ravindra Jadeja did get some assistance, but after the dew kicked in, it was very difficult for him. It was, in fact, ball was mainly sliding down.
Yes, Tapas.
So hardly much of an impact both the spinners had today. In fact, a lot of people thought that maybe Indian spinners failed to use the condition as they could have.
We leave it there. Thanks very much to both you and Abhishek for joining us in the middle of news night because the match has just got over and unfortunately India has lost, but congratulations to Australia for an astounding victory. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Indian and Australian defence and foreign ministers meet for the 2+2 dialogue. And Turkish authorities apprehend a suspected Croatian drug cartel leader. Also, Argentina votes in the runoff election for president. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Here's a recap of our headlines. The US President Joe Biden says that the Palestinian Authority should ultimately govern Gaza Strip as well as the West Bank. Indian and Australian defence and foreign ministers are to meet for the 2+2 ministerial dialogue in New Delhi on Monday. And the 54th edition of the International Film Festival of India to begin in Goa from Monday. Defence ministers of India and Australia will join the country's foreign ministers in the second India-Australia 2+2 defence and foreign ministerial dialogue on the 20th of November in New Delhi. The ministers are expected to discuss a wide range of strategic defence and security issues. Here's our report. Well, we'll run that report a little later. We don't seem to have that, but let me bring in our guest, Dr. Rajan Kumar, who's the Associate Professor at the School of International Studies, JNU. Thank you very much, Professor Rajan Kumar, for joining us. This meeting, it's coming just a few days after China's unsafe and unprofessional interaction on an Australian Navy vessel. It's injured some Australian divers as well. How important do you think it is the defence ties are between India and Australia?
Thank you, Mark, for having me here. And just because, this is the day of cricket, so
yes.
Earlier India's familiarity with Australia was known as 3 Cs, which basically meant cricket, Commonwealth, and cuisine or curry. And now it has moved to what you rightly said, defense, democracy, and diaspora. So we have moved a long way from what we had earlier during the last 15, 20 years. I mean, during the Cold War period, it was completely different. So, and China, as you said, is a very important factor because China is a very aggressive country, especially in the Indo-Pacific region, especially in the South China Sea. So in that context, we have several bilateral and multilateral agreements with Australia and also with other countries in a way, to counteract China. And China is also trying to have a good relation with Australia. And just a few weeks back, this Australian Prime Minister was also in China, and they are trying to mend the relationship, which kept completely, which went which went very down during the previous government, conservative government. But now with the Labour Party government, Australia is also trying to mend its ties with China. So in that context, again, there were some charges by Australia that China is trying to spy the navy, etc. So those charges are important, but we have to maintain a very balanced relationship with Australia, and we are doing it. But China is one factor, but there are other factors which are very important. We have signed very important trade agreements, economic cooperation trade agreement, which is kind of early harvest free trade agreement with Australia. And we have a trade of roughly $30 billion today. So trade is important. Diaspora, as you know, roughly 1 million Indian people of Indian origin, they are in Australia. And we have roughly 1 lakh students, Indian students in different universities and colleges there. So those are very important aspects of this relationship. And but most important is the two issues which are very important. One is, as I said, the defense, and the second one is economic trade, which has increased tremendously in the last few years.
Professor Kumar, we were running a story before we started this discussion, but unfortunately it didn't roll because we had some technical problem. But I'm asking my producer to play that out because it'll help our viewers to understand the relationship a little better. Then we'll come back to the discussion.
India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will meet their Australian counterparts for the second India-Australia 2+2 Defence plus Foreign Ministerial Dialogue in New Delhi on Monday. Deputy Prime Minister and Defence Minister of Australia Richard Marles and Foreign Minister Penny Wong will be representing the Australian side. India and Australia share a comprehensive strategic partnership. A mutual logistics support agreement was signed in 2020. Australia and India support a rules-based international order. They seek to forge regional institutions in the Indo-Pacific which are inclusive and promote economic integration. The Quad is an example of shared interest. The two countries also participate in joint military exercises. Apart from Quad, the two countries are members of the Commonwealth, Indian Ocean Rim Association, ASEAN Regional Forum, Asia-Pacific Partnership on Climate and Clean Development, and East Asia Summit. Both countries are also members of the 5 interested parties in the World Trade Organization context. The Economic Cooperation Trade Agreement, ECTA, was the first free trade agreement signed by India with a developed country. It came into force in December 2022. India and Australia are partners in a trilateral agreement along with Japan to enhance the resilience of supply chains. There is also significant cooperation in the education sector. 2 universities of Australia have campuses in India. More than 1 lakh Indian students study in Australia. Apart from the 2+2 dialogue, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will hold a bilateral meeting with the Deputy Prime Minister Marles. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar and Foreign Minister Wong will also hold a bilateral meeting under the 14th Foreign Ministerial Framework Dialogue, that's on the 21st of November. Stronger people-to-people ties are growing naturally, given the growing Indian diaspora in Australia. The two countries are aiming for a broad and multifaceted bilateral relationship. The countries, which are cricket-loving nations and share a formidable sporting rivalry, elevated their relationship to a comprehensive strategic partnership during the first virtual summit held on 4th of June 2020. Bureau Report, DD India.
And Professor Rajan is still with us. Professor Rajan, now China is seen as an aggressive power in the Indo-Pacific. So what joint steps can be taken with, Pacific Island countries as well, like the Solomon Islands, to reduce that kind of influence?
I think to counter China, we have both diplomatic and military agreements with Australia. We are partners in the Quad multilateral organization that you know, where with America and Japan together. We also do Malabar exercises, and for the first time, Australia was also invited by India in 2020. And after that, this is the military exercise, and now India has this military Malabar exercise with all the Quad members. So that was another development which actually which was not taken positively by China. China thinks that these organizations, both Quad and Malabar exercises, are essentially meant to counter China. So that's number 2. And as you rightly pointed out, that India has become very active in the Pacific Ocean, where we have now meetings. Prime Minister Modi also visited a number of countries, etc. So these are important developments. And apart from that, we also have the agreements with ASEAN for that matter. And with ASEAN, we emphasize on centrality of ASEAN, which actually goes goes against the dominance of China. And we are also trying to have a free trade agreement and other agreements with the ASEAN countries. So these are important developments through which India is trying to counter China in the Indo-Pacific and also in the Southeast Asian region.
Professor Rajan, India has a 2+2 dialogue with the US. That meeting took place in the recent past. It also has a 2+2 dialogue with Japan. So, you know, how much convergence do you see since all these countries are members of the Quad?
Yeah, there's a lot of convergence of interest among these states, especially the countries which are democracy. In all the meetings, 2+2, whether it's with the United States or with Japan or Australia, you'll find the mention of 2-3 things. One is this rule-based order, which basically says the liberal order and the kind of organization that you have will support that, will not allow countries to interfere in the domestic affairs of other countries, and no country can behave very aggressively with the smaller parts, the way, for instance, China does. So rule-based order is one. And the second point that we always emphasize on free and open Indo-Pacific, where the law of United Nations, that we emphasize in all the meetings. We also say that the role of democracy, the role of free society, the open society, etc., which actually goes against the Chinese notion, which is a kind of authoritarian government. So these are the issues which we discuss with all the countries, in all the meetings of 2+2 with Japan and America also. In the last meeting with the Blinken when he was here, and we had 2+2. So we also discussed the issue of Ukraine and the issue of Palestine, the issue of climate change, energy, etc. So it's a very comprehensive partnership that we have with all the countries with which we have 2+2 meetings.
I'm running short of time, Professor Rajan, but I want to bring in this education sector since you belong to it. Is this really one of the areas that is, developing in terms of India-Australia relations? Do you see the collaboration improving also the quality of our institutions?
Of course, that's very interesting, and thank you for asking this question because I teach in university. And two of the universities, Diakin and Wollongong, the two universities which are starting the campus in India, so which is very interesting development. And as I said earlier, that we have roughly 1 lakh students from India studying in Australia. The only thing that I would like to see in future that more Australian students would also come to India. It should not be just a one-way trade in terms of sending a student there. Education and people-to-people and cultural cooperation, that's an important aspect of cooperation between India and Australia. And we have 1 million diaspora Indian people in Australia. So that also kind of plays a role within the two countries. So that's very interesting development. And there is immense scope for extending the cooperation in the educational sector. But yeah, the visa is an issue.
Dr. Rajan Kumar, Associate Professor, School of International Studies, JNU. Thanks for being with us. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Chhath Puja is being celebrated with fervour in parts of North India and Nepal.
Always welcoming. The vibe of Punjab is larger than life. Warm up to grandeur that's beyond compare. And history that's dotted with tales of bravery. Smiling soul of India, where music, art, cuisine and culture comes together to create an unforgettable impression. Punjab is all set to win your hearts with its unique and colorful extravaganza.
You're watching DD India News Hour. My name is Mark Lin. Let's get you some news that is coming in, news in brief. Well, in New Delhi, Rashtrapati Bhavan and the India Gate, they have been illuminated in blue. This is to mark World Children's Day, which is being celebrated on Monday. Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra outreach program is being observed in the Indian city of Tawang in Arunachal Pradesh. The pledge for Viksit Bharat was also taken in a village in Tawang. The Sankalp Yatra aims to reach out to people, to create awareness and to provide benefits for the welfare schemes of the people. All schools in the Indian capital, New Delhi, are going to reopen from Monday. This is by an order of the Delhi government. The schools had been closed because of high levels of pollution in the national capital. Outdoor activities, sports activities for children, morning assemblies will not be held. The Japanese Marines in amphibious assault vehicles stormed an island beach at the edge of the East China Sea on Sunday in a simulated attack to dislodge invaders from a territory that Tokyo worries is vulnerable to attack from China. As tensions run high with the neighbors, China, Russia, North Korea as well, the drill on the southwest island, it capped an 11-day series of exercises nationwide, which was dubbed 05JX. It's meant to show the readiness on the ground of sea and air forces to defend Japan's territory and infrastructure, including nuclear power plants. Ground self-defense amphibious assault vehicles launched from 2 Maritime Self-Defense Force landing ships anchored offshore. Let's take you through more stories from around the world. Voting is underway in Argentina for a delicately poised presidential runoff, with voters in the South American nation seeking a solution to triple-digit inflation and rising poverty. The election sees the Peronist economy minister Sergio Massa go head-to-head with the radical libertarian outsider Javier Milei. Turkish authorities, in collaboration with Croatian law enforcement authorities, they have apprehended a suspected leader of a Croatian drug cartel near Istanbul on Saturday. The Croatian Office for Suppression of Corruption and Organized Crime has linked the suspect to drug operations across 9 countries. Italy's Ayrton Cozzolino and Muna White of the United States, they have been crowned the 2023 men's and women's kite surfing world champions in Brazil. France's Capucine Delaunay won the season-ending competition on Saturday. It wasn't enough to stop White from being crowned the overall champion. A hat belonging to Napoleon Bonaparte during his reign at the helm of the French Empire fetched more than $2.1 million at an auction in Paris. Auctioneer Jean-Pierre Ossenat said that the total selling price, which includes auction fees, is a record for a Napoleon hat. And Nicaragua's Shainis Palaquies has been crowned Miss Universe for the year 2023, marking her country's first win in the international beauty pageant. The 72nd edition of the Miss Universe pageant was held in Jose Adolfo Pineda Arena in San Salvador, in El Salvador. Miss Thailand, Antonio Porslid, emerged as the first runner-up, and Miss Australia, Mariah Wilson, was named the second runner-up. Miss Universe shared the update on its official Instagram page. India is one of the oldest Vedic festivals. One of the oldest festivals of India is called Chhath. It's one of the oldest Vedic festivals. It's being celebrated across the country and also in different parts of the world. The festival is celebrated mainly in Bihar and parts of eastern Uttar Pradesh, as well as Nepal for centuries. The 4-day festival is celebrated in honor of the sun, which involves a long fast without water and making offerings to the light of the rising as well as of the setting sun while standing in a water body. So devotees are they have been performing Chhath Puja in different parts of the country, from Amritsar to Kolkata. As we said, the Indian festival of Chhath is also popular in the Tarai region of Nepal. In Tarai region, several ponds and lakes were decorated with colored fabrics and lights. Thousands of devotees were celebrating Chhath in these ponds by offering fruits, traditional sweets, sweets like tekua as well as kasad to the sun god. And that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. But let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lynn. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.